i.e., there was a 26-year period in my life, I worked every single day, including the day I got married. I'll say if love worked, there would be no personal development. Love doesn't got the job done, okay? Love doesn't work. Religion doesn't work. Nothing works other than if you have self-esteem as a human being. You're a better person, you're a better father, you're a better husband, better wife, whatever the hell, you know, you're a better citizen. You take life more serious if you have self-esteem, if you have self-worth. I said at dinner the other night, Gallup poll did in 2016-17 a study. 86.6% of the people on the planet, of the 7.6 or 7 billion, are unhappy. They've locked out. They're not looking for anything in life. And I say I'd like to find the 13%, because most people are living hand to mouth. Most people are living paycheck to paycheck. Okay, that's why your programs are so successful, because you give them alternatives. Okay, that's why Dan Logue's programs are so successful, because he gives them alternatives, and the alternatives aren't being taught. When I was at these various universities I've had the privilege of speaking at, one of the first questions I ask is, how many classes have you had in buying a business? How many classes have you had in selling a business? No hands go up. How many classes have you had? This is the business schools. Right. How many classes have you had in leadership? None. Except for Naval Academy more recently, none. Well then how in the fuck, what are they teaching you here? You know? If you don't know how to buy a business, sell a business, and you can't lead the people, but they're not being taught. It's no accident that 40% of all the billionaires are engineers. That's not an accident, okay? I told you the story, our youngest son, when he was in graduate school, he sent me over 4 case studies. And on a Thursday, he said, Dad, what do you think of these? And I said, when do you need the information by? He says, Sunday. I spent 8 hours, 4 case studies. I sent it back to him. He thought that I had my students, my mentees, do the work. And when he turned it in, this is 1 quarter's work for a team of 4 graduate students. 1 team. I did it in 8 hours, the work. What the fuck do you do all year? I asked him. He says, well, he said, we study there's nothing to study. These are the facts. I mean, Jesus Christ. You run a couple of numbers, but the kids today have a low benchmark. I think the reason the big schools keep it a 2-year MBA is because they can charge fees for 2 years. That's my own personal opinion, because it can't possibly. During the hardcore, we covered between 32 and 38 cases, just like Harvard, just like Columbia, just like NYU. We do it in 8.5 days. 8.5 days.
So no need for these business schools. No. And again, you think they don't teach you how to buy a business or sell a business?
No, no.
Back to your father, do you think the greatest gift you can give your children is to be an alpha male?
No, the greatest gift you can give to them is make them accountable for their life in all aspects. If you're an alpha male, fine. 98% of the high performance people on the planet are not alpha males.
Explain that.
Okay, they're beta males, okay? Elon Musk, Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, Zuckerberg, all have one thing in common. They're introverts, they're not alpha males. 98% of the...
a few engineers in there.
Yep,
okay.
Yep, but you don't have to be.
All right.
But if you want to be a role model, kids don't do what you tell them to do, they do what they see you do.
12 seminars this year. All the kids are coming to your castle because they want to know how to get the fucking money, right, Dan? Why don't you tell us?
Okay, well, I have a link on my site, free. How do you get the fucking money? It lists the 14 sources.
Will money solve my problems?
Huh?
Will money solve everyone's problems?
No.
Okay.
The only thing money will do, it'll allow you either to dig a deeper hole that you're already in, or somehow catapult you out of the hole. Okay, out of the hole. And and most of the kids that do it are able to get out of the hole.
How?
But part of the reason that they're in a hole is, show me your friends, I'll show you your future, your family. When you're raised, the first 7 or 8 years of life is when self-esteem is built. who you're around the first 7 or 8 years. Mom, maybe a dad if he's not working or not traveling, older sibling, a grandparent, right?
Yeah.
They know nothing about training high-performance people, okay?
Very low probability they're high performance.
Correct, low probability. Now, if you're Steffi Graf and Andrew Agassi, and they're your parents, and there's a high probability you can be a world-class athlete. But other than some examples like that. And then after you've built that...
Nobody wants to hear that.
No, I know that.
Like you told the whole premiere of the $50 billion man that your parents fucked you up, and that's the reason why you're all low performance. You should have, drained down your mama's leg instead, but nobody wants to hear that.
No, I know they don't. Doesn't make it not true. Doesn't make it not.
Okay, so if people can accept that, then they can move to the next step,
correct.
Which is how can I fix
correct.
it?
And then, so now you're adolescent, teenager, show me your friends, I'll show you your future. Most of us, when I say us collectively, not me, most of us are attracted to people that are like us because we fit in. We don't want to be a sore thumb, either on the upside or the downside. I've seen kids, not looking back in hindsight, that were high performance, but wanted to hang out like with the hoods or the greasers, they used to call them, I think. And this guy's got 170 IQ, ultimately went to Stanford or MIT, and he's hanging around. They used to comb their hair in ducktails back in my day. I don't even know exactly what that means, but the hair comes down anyway. And then he winds up being a medical doctor from Stanford,
okay.
But he went through that phase because he wanted to fit in. So we're attracted to people that we're more in their and our comfort zone together. What QLA teaches is to teach you how to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And most people don't want that.
So simple to say, so difficult to do.
Oh, amen.
Because subconsciously, your brain is always trying to get you comfortable, and it will tell you any story as to why you shouldn't go do that. I don't have the money, I just got married, I just got divorced, I just got kids, a Brexit, blah, 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 blah. It's constantly trying to convince you not to take the risk.
Correct. And the irony is that you can always come up with a reason. And then once you're successful, whoever said it's hard to get successful, but it's harder to stay successful, was some sort of genius, because it is. Because now are you going to be a one-trick fuck? Did you do it one time? Was it just by accident? So I'll sit on my assets, and I'll covet my assets, and I'll do everything humanly possible to play not to lose instead of playing to win. Other than I have suits that say 50 billion, and the suits are 10,000 pounds a clip, not bragging, but and I haven't even worn them all yet. It's got a better ring. I'd like when we're currently at about, without the IMF and the World Bank, we're currently at about 670 billion. Okay, and I'm going to make it to trillion. So I told my wife that I'm going to work at least until I'm at a trillion, not counting the IMF or the World Bank. But I don't consider it work. And 50 billion has got a ring to it. And it's all by serendipity that we even started. Because 23 years ago at the Harvard Club, they asked me, I came back for a second time, they asked me, how is your program working out? And I had 5 or 6 of the Harvard Club members had gone to the castle. Well, I said, well, just with the guys here in the room, we created 100 million. And I was looked at with great disdain because they didn't want to talk about money. Mostly because the 95% that didn't come were standing in, like Groundhog Day. They hadn't done anything. And so I didn't talk about money again for 16 years.
But you got the idea. These guys made $100 million with my teaching, so this
Correct.
could be an interesting
Correct.
metric.
And then one of the other guys, who's a great marketing guru, came up with it. He had generated 11 billion in revenue, not equity. And one of my crack staff brought it to my attention. He says, I'm sure that we've got triple or quadruple that in equity. So 10, 12 days later, they came back to me. The first number they came up with was 34 billion we created. And he says, that's just preliminary. Then they put some feelers out. Then we went to 56 billion. And then we went to 64 billion. And then we stuck on, this is almost 10 years ago now, we stuck on the 50 billion. And it's more than enough to show that the system works. And what's most important, and the trouble I had 25 years ago when I first started teaching, coaching, mentoring QLA, is that even though I had taken $800, turned it into 450 million, that's me. They look at my skill sets, my gift to gab, my presentation skills, and then they turn themselves off by saying, we're not Dan Pena, we're not gonna be able to do that. So for years, I've been building up a cadre, and now we've got, this is not much of an exaggeration, from Forrest Gump, literally, fucking Forrest Gump IQ types, to 180 IQ. And the lower the IQ, the more money they make. So you're an engineer, by definition, engineers are analytical. Okay, you get trained to be analytical. And quite simply, if you make a mistake, normally if you're building a bridge, you're building a rocket ship or whatever, a lot of people are gonna die. It's just not you, so you're trained to be safe.
Train us to be risk averse.
Correct, and risk averse. And
to get excited with all the details and the numbers.
Yeah.
It's like porn for us.
Yeah, and trained to spreadsheet things to death, okay?
And what does that mean for people that don't understand?
Okay, overanalyze it, paralysis by analysis.
Which means you don't have to pull the trigger,
Correct.
you can just analyze it all day.
Yeah, just because you hit the send button or enter button on the computer, doing the numbers again, that's not taking action. So you overanalyze, you study things, you think of all the possible permutations, all the possibilities of what can go wrong, and if you do that enough, you'll come up with enough reasons not to do it at all. Because taking action isn't doing a spreadsheet. Taking action isn't listening to a podcast. Taking action is not reading a book, okay? Taking action is actually taking action. And that's why when we came up with a phrase to describe QLA, we borrowed Nike's. They say, just do it. So we say, just fucking do it, to add some emphasis to it. And but if you're an engineer, an accountant, a lawyer, a doctor, a scientist, a computer, a PhD, etc., you have learned to study and to take action in a certain fact pattern, okay? And that fact pattern is not a gunslinger, like at the OK Corral, pulling his gun and shooting, okay? That is, well, how's the wind coming? Is the sun at my back or is the sun at his back? How many of them are there on their side? How many? You go through all these permutations. When a good entrepreneur makes decisions a lot based on his gut, okay?
You can decide on a deal in 60 seconds.
Yeah, sometimes less. And you only have 2 times to make a first impression. One's how you look. 2, what comes out of your mouth, okay? A lot of guys and gals look the part, but as soon as they open their mouth, they are engaging in self-sabotaging activity. It's quite simple. So I'll see a guy or a gal, and you'll walk up and we'll shake hands, and I'll know this isn't it. I'll look them in the eyes. I can see death in their eyes. I can smell fear. Now, let me back up to the handshake. In 1986, the female hand pressure per handshake was 98 pounds per square inch.
Average.
Average, okay. 2016, it's 108. Men, 1986, 114. Men today, 96. 2016, not today. Not that I need that validation that we're turning more to snowflakes. Not that I need that validation
what does that mean?
Well, it means that men aren't what they used to be. Men aren't the guys today, are not the guys that settled the Western United States in covered wagons and they went from the East Coast to the West Coast. Men aren't the guys from the 14 and 1500s that sailed the ocean blue to find various parts of the world.
Right, and that's hurting us.
In a devastating manner.
Because they're not pulling the trigger and not taking action and risks, which is how we survived.
Correct.
Instead, they are having self-esteem issues.
Correct.
Because they're being told that you shouldn't be aggressive, the patriarchy is bad, you have privilege, and you need to tone it down.
Correct. Well, not just tone it down, not have it.
Right.
And it gets back to athletics. Our 3 children, which are millennials, we had right at the outer edge as our oldest son, but they were in athletic programs in schools just when the no win, you participate ribbons. And I took them out of athletics. When they were, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 20 some years ago, that's when that started. And that was the beginning of the deterioration of in my judgment, manly education. Now,
So you're fighting back against that.
Correct.
And so this is a social experiment as much as a business.
you're making it sound better than it is. That's not
Okay.
how I thought of it, and that's not how I think about it. But anthropologists, sociologists would say exactly what you just said. In fact, some very bright guys at some of the universities that I've had the privilege of talking at to the students have said the same thing.